There's a certain kind of heaviness that doesn't make a sound. It lingers in the background while you're brushing your teeth, staring at a screen, walking through your day like a ghost in your own life. It's the weight of a mind turned against itself, a storm of thoughts looping, questioning, criticizing, until you're not sure where the pain ends and you begin. You wonder quietly if the brightness you once had is gone for good, but it's not. It's only been buried beneath the noise, and there's a way back. You've probably noticed your thoughts don't just whisper doubts anymore. They shout. You walk into a room and your mind is already narrating everything you did wrong before you even open your mouth. You finish a conversation and the replay button hits, not once, but on a loop, dissecting your words, your tone, the silence in between. You wake up tired, not just physically, but tired of being in your own head. And the cruel part, the outside world doesn't see it. They see you functioning, replying to messages, showing up on time, maybe even smiling. But inside, it's like you're constantly battling a voice that insists you're failing, even when nothing is actually going wrong. It's not laziness. It's not weakness. It's just that your mind has learned to rehearse pain, to expect disappointment, to prepare for rejection before anything even happens. And maybe no one ever explained that this kind of mental pattern can quietly take over everything, that you can become so used to your own self-criticism. It starts to sound like truth, and it's not always obvious. Sometimes it looks like perfectionism. Sometimes it sounds like overthinking. Sometimes it feels like numbness, because your brain has been spinning so long, it just burns out. You second-guess compliments. You hesitate before joy. You assume anything good must be temporary, because somewhere along the way, your mind decided that preparing for the worst was the only way to stay safe, and society doesn't help. You're told to stay positive, push through, fix your mindset, as if the thoughts didn't already feel like a cage, as if you could just flip a switch and suddenly be light again. But here's what I want you to know. It makes sense that you feel this way. When life has given you uncertainty, hurt, or inconsistency, the mind adapts. It learns to scan for danger, even when you're safe. It learns to criticize you before others can. It learns to dim your hope, just in case. But that's not your fault. It's a pattern, not a permanent truth. And if no one has said this to you lately, let me say it clearly. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness beneath them, the one who notices, who aches, who still hopes, even when hope feels far. You are not broken for feeling this way. You are simply carrying a pattern that was never meant to last forever. There's a cost to living in a mind that turns on you, but it's not always the kind of cost people notice. It's not just about sadness or tears or the obvious signs. It's about what you no longer reach for. It's about the invitations you quietly decline, the laughter you don't quite let yourself feel, the dreams you start to shrink before they even take shape, because somewhere deep down you started believing it's safer not to want too much, not to try too hard, not to be too visible, because if you keep things small, maybe it'll hurt less when they fall apart. But that shrinking, that self-editing, it's not protection anymore. It's slow erosion. It's how your light dims without you realizing, not because it's gone, but because you've been shielding it, hiding it behind thoughts like, what's the point? I'll mess it up anyway. They don't really care. These thoughts sound like logic, but they're made of fear. And over time, they start to sculpt a version of you that isn't fully you. You become the manager of your pain, the strategist of your sadness. You spend so much energy anticipating the worst that there's no space left for joy to land. And here's the part that's hardest to admit. Sometimes the negative thoughts feel comforting because they're familiar, because believing them gives you a sense of control. If you expect the worst, you can't be surprised. If you criticize yourself first, you don't have to fear someone else doing it. But that kind of safety comes at a high price. It costs you presence. It costs you softness. It costs you connection, not just with others, but with the truest parts of yourself. The part that still remembers what it felt like to be open, to be creative, to be excited. That part is still there, but it's been buried under layers of protection that once kept you safe and now keep you stuck. That's the hidden cost, not just what you feel, but what you no longer allow yourself to feel. Not just the pain, but the distance from the parts of you that were never meant to disappear. What if your mind isn't broken, but just tired from carrying too much alone? What if healing isn't about silencing the negative thoughts, but about learning to sit beside them without letting them lead? There's an ancient intelligence in your heart, a wisdom that doesn't argue with your fears or debate your doubts. It simply knows. It knows that not every dark thought deserves a response, that not every inner storm needs to be stopped, that sometimes peace arrives not because the noise has vanished, but because you've stopped following it. You see, your thoughts are fast, but your truth is quiet. Your mind tries to protect you with plans and patterns and preparation, but your essence, that deeper part of you, it trusts the rhythm of life. It knows that seasons change, that even the coldest winters give way to bloom. It knows that clarity doesn't always come from thinking more. It often comes from thinking less, from breathing deeper, from softening into this moment instead of trying to solve it. The truth is, you are not here to win every battle inside your head. You are here to become someone who doesn't fear the battle anymore, to remember that stillness is not the absence of thoughts. It's the return of your attention to what's real. The breath in your chest, the quiet pulse of your body, the way life continues to unfold, even when your thoughts resist it. That's not weakness, that's alignment. And alignment isn't something you chase, it's something you return to by letting go of what pulls you away. The ancient part of you, beneath the fear, beneath the noise, has always known how to find its way back. It doesn't rush, it doesn't force, it listens, it trusts, it endures. There is beauty in that endurance, not the kind that looks impressive from the outside, but the kind that lets you hold pain without becoming bitter, that lets you be present with confusion without needing to escape, that lets you stay open even when you're afraid, because somewhere deep inside, you've always known. You are not meant to be perfect. You are meant to be whole. And wholeness includes your questions, your shadows, your soft beginnings. It includes all the moments you didn't feel strong, but showed up anyway. This is not about defeating the darkness. It's about remembering that you carry light, even when you can't see it, especially then. So what do you do when your mind keeps looping, when your thoughts feel louder than your life? You begin small, not with force, not with a grand plan, but with the softest kind of noticing. Start by catching the moment when the spiral begins, not to stop it, but simply to see it. Oh, here it is again. That old loop, that familiar story. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to fight it. You just have to name it gently, like you're meeting an old habit, not an enemy. Then bring your attention, just for a moment, into your body, not to escape the thoughts, but to remind yourself there's more to you than what's happening in your head. Feel your breath, not perfect, not deep, just real. Notice the way the air enters, the way it leaves. Feel your feet touching the floor, your hands resting on your lap. This is what returning looks like. Not dramatic transformation, not instant clarity, just small moments of presence, layered gently, one breath at a time. And if you forget, that's okay too. The point is not to win against your mind. It's to remember you're not only your mind, you are the space it moves through. And in that space, you get to choose. Not always what you think, but how closely you follow. Over time, these tiny pauses, they begin to add up. You begin to see the difference between a thought and a truth, between fear and foresight, between what's real now and what's just your brain trying to protect you from shadows. You'll start to feel it, this subtle shift, not relief like a flood, but relief like a loosening, like your breath getting a little less shallow, like your thoughts becoming a little less convincing. And this is where you begin to return, not to a new version of yourself, but to the one who was always here beneath the noise. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to come back to your breath, back to your body, back to the quiet wisdom that never left. The light is not lost. It's simply waiting for a little more room. Imagine this. You wake up and the first thing you feel isn't dread or a mental checklist or a weight you can't name, but space, not emptiness, just room to breathe. You still have thoughts. You still have days when the clouds feel heavier than the light, but something's different now. You don't believe every thought. You don't follow every spiral. You don't treat your emotions like emergencies. You meet yourself with a kind of softness that used to feel foreign, and it changes everything. Your pace slows, not because you're falling behind, but because you're finally in rhythm with your life. You speak more gently, not just to others, but to yourself. You notice beauty again, in quiet moments, in simple kindness, in your own resilience. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to trust yourself, not because you've figured everything out, but because you've learned how to stay present with the things you haven't. That's what inner light feels like. It's not loud, it's not dramatic. It's the quiet confidence that you don't need to be fixed, just felt, that your worth was never measured by how polished your mind sounds on paper. It was always here, in the way you return to presence again and again. And this journey, it's not linear. You'll forget. You'll fall back into old thoughts, old fears, but now you'll notice it sooner. You'll catch yourself with more compassion. You'll pause, breathe, and begin again, not because you failed, but because beginning again is part of what makes you whole. So here's a question, just for you. What would change if you stopped believing every voice in your head and started listening to the one in your heart, the one that speaks quietly, the one that knows how to wait, the one that never stopped believing in your light, even when you did? That's the part I hope you return to. And if this message felt like something you needed, I invite you to share it. Leave a comment, not for me, but as a way of telling your own mind, I'm still here, I'm still listening, because your voice matters, your breath matters, and your light. It was never lost. It's just been waiting for you.